Hello friends, and welcome to part 2 of my tutorial on weathering an HO scale gondola. In the last episode I focused on preparing the model and weathering the body. This episode I'm going to weather the chassis, wheels and bogies, and I'm going to put the model back together. Because the underside of the wagon doesn't get seen too often whilst running, I'm not going to do anything too dramatic in terms of weathering. I mix some Vallejo sand yellow with some water and apply a milky consistency wash to the entire chassis. I let the colour pool in the corners as this will create depth when it dries. I only really want the chassis to look dirty and dusty, so I'm not going to focus on any other weathering techniques. Like before, I use a rolled up tissue to wick up any excess wash. You can use a hairdryer to speed up the drying process when drying up a wash, but I prefer to let these heavy washes dry naturally. Next, I use the same wash to give the bogies a good dust coating. When this wash settles and dries in the crevices, it really adds a lot of depth to the bogies. Just like the chassis, I leave the bogies to one side to air dry. It's time to get some good use out of that wheel holder I made in part 1. I'm going to mix up some Vallejo black grey and water to make the wash that I'm going to put over my wheels. If you look at metal components in real life, it's very rare that they look pitch black. I prefer to use grey black, as when it dries it gives a gunmetal appearance. I build up a light wash on each wheel, but I make sure to let a little bit of the red oxide colour peek through. Don't be afraid of making mistakes with washes. All you need to do is add a little bit of water and you can easily correct or blend mistakes. You wouldn't think this type of detail would be noticeable when the wagon is on the track, but it does go a long way to make the gondola look less toy-like, as you'll see in the final pictures. Before I do my final detailing, I'm going to reassemble the wagon. I line everything up and I start to screw everything back in place. And this is the first look of the rebuilt model. The couplers still look a little bit too plasticky for me, so I'm going to tackle those in the next step. I start by painting on some Vallejo hull red. I take special care to not paint the spring or the opening mechanism. While the paint is still wet, I carefully dust on some brown iron oxide pigment powder. I really like using this technique to create rough textured work. This wagon is just about done, but the last thing that I want to do is dry brush some white paint over some of the raised edges on the wagon to make some of the details a little more noticeable. I dip my paintbrush into some white paint and then I paint off most of the paint. Less is definitely more when it comes to dry brushing. You want just enough paint to be able to catch the tips of the raised edges. If you have too much paint on the brush, you'll notice it straight away because you'll start to get heavy streaking on your model. I think it's safe to say that this wagon is done. Let's take a closer look at the final product. Weathering in model railroading is a very subjective topic. Some people love it and other people hate it. I'm personally a fan of freight traffic, so I really love recreating dirty, well-used pieces of rolling stock. I've always felt that weathered rolling stock creates small moving scenes on a layout. By using weathered rolling stock to extend your scenery, you can make a small layout look just as impressive as something much bigger that isn't as detailed. Where I live, model railroading is not the cheapest endeavour, so weathering of rolling stock can add a whole new layer to the hobby for people that don't have huge amounts to spend on tons of rolling stock. I want to say a huge thank you for watching this tutorial, and if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe and leave a comment below. I plan to upload a lot more content as the weeks go on, so please keep an eye on my channel. Until next time, happy training.